Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest, Cammy. Hey, Cammy.
Hey, Bryant.
Cammy, how many people do you think are listening that just subscribed? This is their first episode. How many do you think?
I'm not sure. Probably not as many as views you're getting as your
And my ultra
that
famous
one YouTube video.
Right, yeah. Well, if you're new, welcome. We love to have you here. Mythstorie is a show where Bryant and Cammy, we created the show. Cammy mainly created it. I'm just here for the pretty face. We created the show so we could talk about anything. Legends. We talk about lots of Greek stuff, which, myth, you think Greek stuff. But we talk about just about anything you can think of. Cammy gives us a story in her own words, and then I will lead a discussion on that. And we are not scholars. We have degrees not related to this at all. But we enjoy this. So, Cammy, what are we talking about today? We've been hitting the Greek hard. We're going to do it again, right?
Exactly. Yes. But this does stretch further than just Greek. Right. So that's good.
Right.
And Bryant actually came up with this topic.
Yes. Yeah. So we're talking about the Lamia, which, depending on the sources, and this is like a sneak preview, it's like a singular being or it's several beings. Kind of different than Medusa. Medusa was a Gorgon, but there's a Gorgon named Medusa, that kind of thing. Lamia is a person, but it also becomes there's the Lamia, which are these things. And I got this from the books, the Spook's Apprentice books that I've talked about. I'll mention that more on my end, but I know Cammy, we luckily, because it is a Greek story, we do have some great sources. Theoi is what I'm using. I'm sure that you visited them as well. We absolutely love them. I THEOI.com. Theoi. If you love Greek stuff, just go on there. It is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, Cammy, why don't you go ahead and hit us with the story today?
Absolutely. Like Bryant mentioned, I did use theoi.com, the Lamia section. And then there's also this book called Dragons, Serpents, and Slayers in the Classical and Early Christian Worlds. And that's by Daniel Ogden. Most beautiful of all the women in Libya, the queen held a special place in the eye of the king of the gods. Zeus watched her from afar for many months before he came down in human form to seduce the woman. He visited her many times, and she bore him many children. The crying from the hungry babes was heard even in the heavens, where Hera, mother goddess, swooped down to comfort them. But what she saw horrified her. Each child a demigod in the likeness of Zeus, they longed for ambrosia to become immortal. So she took them from their home and drowned them in the Mediterranean Sea. Hera then came back to the palace of the queen and waited for her. When Lamia returned, Hera cursed the woman to have the scales of a snake and to never leave the mortal plane, so that she may always remember her grief as long as she had eyes to see. Zeus came down a short time later to visit his lover, but found her alone and panicked, her bottom half now covered in iridescent scales and all of her children missing. Lamia was tearing at her eyes and screaming that she wanted to be rid of them. So Zeus, in comfort, put her eyes in her hands so that she may control when she sees the world. And he vowed to look for her children, but they were all drowned in the bottom of the sea. So he gave Lamia another gift, the ability to transform into anything she wanted. And he left her in Italy to forget her past. But she did not forget. It is said that she would lure children to her when she was in the shape of a stray pup or a beautiful songbird. The children would gaily follow her to a river where she would drown them in jealousy. Eventually, she began to transform into something more akin to the modern-day vampire, taking the children and devouring them whole. But whatever her fate, and the fate of those who encounter her, one thing is certain. She was cursed by Hera to wander the earth for the rest of days, so whatever monster she has become, and whatever hell and suffering she presents her victims, if the stories are true, it still plagues the land today.
That's rough. I knew like bits and bobs. I try and, whenever I do the research, I try not to get the whole story, just so I can get it fresh from you. And that I didn't know some of those details exactly. Hera, you okay? Calm down, hun.
Hera's not okay.
Took down a queen hard, didn't you? I like how you say modern day vampire too, because the first thing I thought of was Twilight and how the Lamia are known to have sparkly scales, and the
Right.
Twilight they sparkle. So that's obviously what you were referencing, the sparkliness. Yeah, Lamia. This is interesting, and I think we'll kind of notice. This is an interesting tale. It is a quite old one, and what I like to see is like even in the classic sources, they're trying to like figure out the moral of the story or the history, or like they're justifying it, they're studying it, they're analyzing it. These dudes from the 6th, 7th century and things like that. And even the name Lamia is said to be well, Theoi says that it is a translation of means large shark. I'm assuming in Greek, perhaps modern, probably ancient at the very least. But I know that there's a lot of connection between ancient and modern Greek. So large shark, and this is kind of an aquatic looking being. A Lamia will typically be like almost like an evil mermaid is the best way I can kind of say it in a nutshell. An evil mermaid,
Aren't
scaly.
all mermaids evil?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Very siren like. Yeah. So like a beautiful woman up top, everything horrible down below, typically. And that's like, if you go to the Wikipedia page, there's a 19th century painting that depicts them as that. Although this one has her more serpentine in the lower half, although she's got a human tuchus. So that's weird. But I enjoyed reading about this because of the different takes. Like Wikipedia notes how Diodorus wrote on this and rationalized that this was like a real Libyan queen. So this is like a euhemeristic account of a Libyan queen in her, I'll quote exactly, in her drunken state, as was if she could not see, allowing her citizens free reign and without superstition or supervision. The kingdom went into a state of ruin, or something like that. And so, and Heraclitus's euhemerized account, that's Wikipedia's words, explains that Hera gouged the eyes out of the beautiful Lamia in like out of anger. So it's cool because there's sort of, for these scholars, the myth was very real. The myth and the history were the same thing, and it explained things. And whether it was fictional or not, it still helped explain the history of these areas and things like that. And so it could, talking of the euhemeristic account, she could have truly been a Libyan queen, a famous Libyan or infamous queen who, like, maybe the whole place went to a state of ruin under her rule, whether it was her fault or not. But maybe it just happened that way. And then that was the story was, oh, well, Zeus and then Hera, and how it went. So there's also I need to look up this real fast. Wikipedia talks of the Scholiast. Aristophanes claimed that Lamia's name derived from her having a large throat or gullet, and so I guess there's some kind of connection there, like a onomatopoeia almost. Yeah, I'm not sure, maybe. And then also
sharks have huge mouths.
True. There's also modern scholarship connecting the Proto-Indo-European stem lem, meaning nocturnal spirit. Where
that makes more sense,
lemur,
I think.
Yeah, lemures, which, if we're going off of, and here's the important kind of next step that I'm talking about is her as a boogeyman. That's the next big topic here, really, and really the focus of this, because that's what she became even in ancient Greece, like post, as we're getting closer to the 80s, through the classical period.
Not the 80s, but the
no, the 80s. Yeah, cocaine and lamias. And the 80s, the Anno Dominis. That's what she became. So it was, we talked about Spring Hill Jack, in England, 18th century or 19th century, your kids, they're being dumb. They're not working in the mines. You say, oi, Jack will get you if you don't make a penny. Tuppence. That's what the exact thing they would say, but it would be, hey, make the, what's the word for money back then? Kyle was playing.
Denary? Oh, that's Roman. I don't know.
Right, yeah. Oh, I wish I knew it. Kyle. No, she doesn't know. She's not listening. She would be able to tell me what the Greek coin is, but that's what they would say. They would say, like, hey, when you're playing outside, don't go here in the hills because the Lamia will devour you. If the Lamia was like a single being, I think it's interesting to think too, because like when I was like scared of the dark and boogeyman and stuff like that, was it one boogeyman or the boogeymen? You know, like I'm trying to think of, was it one being for everyone, or was it just the things under your bed kind of thing? Because that's what Lamia became later. So, and that's exactly what Wikipedia talks about too. Yeah, and even Diodorus's first century account and other accounts in antiquity corroborate her being a boogeyman figure, frightening children into good behavior is the term Wikipedia uses. So I thought that was really interesting. There's also even Apuleius, I believe that was a historian and dramatist. Hold on. He wrote The Golden Ass. He was a philosopher in the Roman province. He was from 124 to 170 BC.
Didn't we talk about the Golden Ass?
I believe so. I think with that one awesome guy. Yeah. And I can't remember what story we were talking about. The one really cool dude. But in that story, they appear as Thessalian witches, and they're called those witches in that story are called Lamiae, like the plural of Lamia. So or
like the Romanized version, maybe.
It could be. I think he was. I'm pretty sure he was writing in Greek. He was a novelist, writer, public speaker. 124 to 170. Oh no, it was AD. Excuse me. So yeah, he could have been writing in Greek or that. But
even if he was Roman, he was maybe writing in Greek. It's still a possibility.
Marcus Aurelius did it. He said Greek was better to write in. He did. He really did. I don't know if you know that, but so and I remember, when I first told you this, I was saying, hey, let's talk about Lamia, and you did a quick little kind of search, and you said, oh, they're like witches, and I was like, yes, and that's where this kind of comes from. And then also in the last, or not the Last Kingdom, I always have to talk about Bernard Cornwell, in the Spooks Apprentice series. I need to get that author's name because I don't remember it. Joseph Delaney's series, The Spooks Apprentice. The Lamia are featured in that. I don't want to give too many because it's actually kind of important. In that series, they bring a lot of. He does what we do. He brings a lot of myth and legend into his books. They're set into like a fictional 18th century England, and the main character is a spook who takes care of like the supernatural and things like that, and it's very fun. It's all, they use like salt and iron, and it's very gritty, and there's no like magic spells and stuff like that. But Lamia are in there, and they're a kind of witch. He describes them really cool when they do appear. They've got like insectoid like wings almost, but I think they're feathery, but they're like.
Ew.
They're gross. It reminded me of like a description of a true Gorgon as being just hideous, but they're very powerful. And the Lamia also, one cool thing in this series, the more they're with humans, just normal humans, they will become more human. And they can be domesticated, and a domesticated Lamia you wouldn't hardly even tell from a normal human. But a feral Lamia is the ones that, they don't even speak. They just grunt. They're just all about eating and stuff like that. And they have to be kind of like wrangled in and then domesticated if you want them to be that way. So it's really cool. Delaney's series, I nearly finished it. It kind of goes off the deep end in a couple stories later on that I didn't love. But the first 5, I think there's like 11 or 12 books. The first like 5 books are like solid, and the series is really easy to read. It's a young adult series, really fun, and that's what gave me this, and has given us several topics in the last few stories. So going on though, the last kind of thing from Wikipedia and Britannica and stuff, a lot of people do kind of make connections to Medusa. Apparently Medusa is actually identified with Libya, but there's also they both had dealings with the 3 witches, the Graiai, that's how it's pronounced, who shared the eye.
Right.
And in some versions that eye belonged to the Gorgons also. So
right. That's in that movie Clash of the Titans, the 80s version. I've not seen the newer one. Or maybe I haven't. I don't remember it very well, but yeah, they had Perseus
Yeah, sure.
had to had
Perseus or
to
Theseus, one of them
take the
uses.
had to take the eye from the Gracchus. Is that what it's called?
Graiai.
Grai. And they took, and then he had to use the eye to like find Medusa or something. It was real weird.
Well, yeah, and apparently they have a connection to Libya. Medusa does too. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. My final thing, Lamia, from Theoi's thing, that, you know, they describe her as a child-devouring sea monster or a night-haunting demon, and that's sort of, I guess, the duality really of the stories that, especially the classic ones, are that. In fact, she is she was probably identified with the sea goddess Keto, spelled like keto, for both are described as the mother of the monstrous Scylla. Her other child, Achilleos, the lipless one, was transformed into a small shark by Aphrodite. God, thanks, y'all, for making sure Lamia had just a great life.
Well, I guess at least 2 of her children didn't die.
Right, yeah, as wonderful sea monsters. Lamia was no doubt here we go. Yeah, so from Theoi, Lamia was no doubt first envisaged as a sea monster. She was the daughter of Poseidon, and her name is simply the ancient Greek word for a large, dangerous, lone shark. So again, maybe there's this euhemeristic kind of evolution of these stories of something happened here in Libya with a big shark, and, you know, people start talking, and all of a sudden,
it's the queen's fault, because everything's a woman's fault.
Right. And but Theoi also absolutely concedes Lamia, often described and much later described as a boogeyman, a night haunting daemon, I should say, which preyed on children. Daemon, by the way, Daemon. I'm pretty sure it just essentially means that you're like half godlike, right? Hold on. In ancient Greek, a divinity or supernatural being of nature between gods and humans. Yeah, not like a demigod, but you're not quite a god. You're definitely not a human. That's
kind of like angels or something.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So she's a daemon in that sense. I wanted to make sure I covered that. And yeah, originally a Libyan queen loved by Zeus, jealous wife Hera, as Theoi puts it. Here's what the affair. God, what story isn't started by Zeus having an affair like Hera? Like, come on, Hera. And then, yeah, her exacting the revenge out to others. This is really well talked about, though. As far back as the 7th and 6th century BC, the Stesichorus fragments, the Greek lyric, it's mentioned in Pausanias, talks about it in Description of Greece in his Greek travelogue of the 2nd century AD. One of my favorite mentionings, the Suda, which is in the Byzantine Greek lexicon of the 10th century AD. I think, yeah, I mentioned this many times. It was sort of a Christian Eastern Empire, Greek-speaking empire, just kind of going over everything, and it mentions these sort of things as well. So, but Plutarch, Aristophanes, I mentioned, and Eustathius on Homer's Odyssey are other sources that mention the Lamia in some form or fashion, and it's typically either that sea monster or that boogeyman figurine. But either way, really interesting. I think it's a really kind of good, simple tale, but it's interesting to think that a real Libyan queen could have been involved, and a shark.
And how much it's branched out since then. Because, like, I want to say, was it Queen of the Damned was about Lamia? It was one of those
I'm not sure.
vampire movies, and it was definitely a lady vampire, and she was, like, supposedly a Lamia.
Oh, I didn't know this. No. I'll have to look that up. Is that a Queen of the Damned? That's a movie?
I think it's Queen of the Damned. Yeah, it might even be like an Anne Rice movie. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anne Rice, Queen of the Damned. Oh, is based on the 3rd novel. I'll do a quick Control F. Lamia. No, they don't mention the word Lamia. She does seem very in the picture. Oh, it had Aaliyah.
It's some vampire movie that the lady's the main character.
Yeah. It's definitely taken on that form, and I think that's really cool that it has the Lamia has these two identities of either serpentine sea creature or just evil vampire lady, one or the other. Almost always, like, especially in the 17th, 18th, 19th century, like as we get to more modern times, she's depicted as this seductress, who very very siren like, but with a snake or mermaid style, but always ill intent, always malicious, but very pretty. That's like the constant factor.
Well, the lady and queen of the dam was very pretty for sure.
Yeah, no, I saw that. That's what I'm saying. It looks like they at least kind of did that sort of. She looks like a Lamia. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting. So I liked it a lot. Well, that's it.
And she definitely had like NARS body glow on or something.
Yeah,
she was definitely glowing.
Sparkly vampires. That's it. That's pretty much it for Lamia. Nothing as cool as Hermes. Sorry. Listen to that episode if you
will anything ever be.
Nothing. Yeah, we're all going to be comparing it. It's going to be rough. But we hope you enjoyed this episode. This should be essentially one of the last ones of the year, right? We're coming close.
Almost. I think that there'll be one more after this.
Right. Yeah. Depending on how the schedule goes. Sorry if it's out of order and it's next year or whatever. We'll see how it goes. But, we publish every Wednesday. You can listen to us on multiple podcast services. We host through Pinecast podcasting services, and you can go to our page there. It should be in the description in the podcast that you're listening to right now, like Spotify or whatever, and on YouTube if you want to use another service or something like that. But we also record video, put it up. You can see Cammy and mine's faces, our faces. And if you have any suggestions for anything, let us know. Our Facebook group is active. Cammy, actually, I think you just started a chat because they're focusing on that. So just throw a topic in the chat or whatever if you want, or just email us directly. Mythstorie is all one word, and there's an IE at the end. We love to talk about Cammy, we had that episode about the Arabic or Islamic concept of the quarine.
Mm-hmm.
And I someone just listened to it, was commenting on it just like a couple weeks ago, and was super involved. It was really cool to hear who's from Africa, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So I love that. We had the Welsh episode where a Welsh native commented. This is why we do the show, and it's super fun to see other people. So and I always encourage, if we got something wrong, let us know. Always, please. That's my biggest caveat. But I think that covers it. Cammy, would you like to conclude anything?
I really wish I knew which movie that was.
We'll find out.
That's about it.
We'll figure it out. Comment below. We'll figure it out. We'll see. If you know any movies that feature Lamia, let Cammy know. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for listening or watching, and we will see you next time.